What I've learned is that I learn something every day at Sandvik. Every day I learn something new.
Welcome everyone. I am delighted to be joined by Eva Wikmark Walin, Global Head of Employee Experience at Sandvik. Sandvik is a Swedish company that specialises in engineering products for rock drilling, mining, and has a real focus on people, processes and sustainability. Thank you, Eva, for joining us today, and also for joining us for iVentiv's Learning Futures Copenhagen at the end of April 2025, which will be hosted at Nordea by Charles Watkin, Head of Learning and Development for Nordea. Eva, thank you for your time here today. One thing that we've been speaking about as we go into the Learning Futures Copenhagen session is really this moment in time for talent at Sandvik. I understand in your role you look after all of the talent processes from L&D, performance, right the way through to executive search. And we've been talking about how to really optimise that talent process. Could you speak a little bit to this moment in time for talent at Sandvik?
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. Of course I can, and I think we are a strongly decentralized company. We have presence in 170 countries and have 45,000 employees, whereof we have 50% blue collars and 50% white collars. So we actually have two different types when it comes to the organization, how we handle talent. But of course, everyone's got talent at Sandvik. And we also group them into the personas when we're speaking about development, talent development. But I think foremost for us is actually that we have a HR collaboration model where we collaborate together in HR forums in different bits and pieces, where we have the business in there and also people from group, of course. And we think that it's really important to combine learning and development with my performance development. Of course, we also have introduced 1 year ago a new platform called Your Voice. That's for our employee experience and employee engagement, where we actually see also what type of development do we need to take, where are we on the development journey, as well as a talent and succession planning, of course, is really closely connected. So everything in the employee life cycle or people journey is actually closely connected, where we try to put emphasis for all of our employees.
It sounds like a really holistic ecosystem that you're building with all of those elements. And one thing that we talk about a lot at iVentiv events is how to make sure that that ecosystem is working together and is collaborative. I know within your role you look after talent and L&D, and I'd be curious to know, are there moments or where do you feel like when talent and learning can work together really well, and also maybe are moments where they tend to fall down, that maybe needs a little bit of extra attention to make sure that it works cohesively?
I think, of course, as we all know and see, learning and development will change for the future with AI, right? So we're also onto that journey, and we've started that journey to see what does it mean. I think personalized learning for everyone, individualized learning, and also connected to that you're driving your own personal development. That's important to us, that you own your journey. But of course, you need to have continuous dialogues with your manager. And that's also building on the psychological safety that we also think is important for innovation, creativity, being able to speak your mind and co-create. So we have an LMS today. We're on the LXP journey to see if we need one. So I think sometimes it's the communication between manager and employee that fails. When it comes to development, you need to have your plan. You need to have an individual development plan driven together between manager and employee. Then systems can help you, but I also think we need to try to sort how much and where do we want to solve our issues of concern with AI or not. But it's still in the communication and the planning when it comes to talent succession planning.
You mentioned there the importance of communication between employee and manager, and also mentioned that the variety of the workforce at Sandvik being both blue collar and white collar. Perhaps just as a question, how do you see those different relationships in working together? So between manager and employee in blue collar and white collar, have to make bespoke interventions? Do you tailor it, or is it very much a one experience for everybody?
We try to make it a one experience for everyone, right? But of course, it's more difficult maybe to take time off, depending on your role and what you're doing. If you continuously are working with a machine or something like that. We also are focusing right now on having more leadership training for our supervisors that actually lead teams, but maybe you don't have the manager flag or the manager role directly. So we think that's important. Then we also have global training, of course, a leadership portfolio on all of the different levels, but also for experts. So we actually weigh a specialist career and a manager career like two parallel steps, right? We think that's important. But of course, it's always a matter of time. It's the same if you're going to answer like a survey for your voice. It's harder when you don't have the time that you just can leave work, right? So we need to tailor that and make sure that everyone has the chance to make their voice heard and also have those conversations.
It sounds very much like making sure you're building it into the natural flow of work for people,
Exactly.
Which of course looks different. And to your own career, you've had roles at IBM, at Telenor, Telia as well, Transcom. How have you seen talent and learning processes manifest differently across those industries? And where do you see the business impact of bringing talent and L&D closer together?
I think the business impact is actually what everyone's talking about now, also moving into maybe a more skills-based organization. How would you actually understand and know the gaps for the future when it comes to skills? And I think we have a lot of networks together within the industry where we actually openly share our challenges here. How would we know what we really need if you not are in control of what you already have? So I think that's one part that is really, really seamlessly can, if you gather those two together, that will actually make an enormous difference to combine these two. Then I think depending on company and size, like IBM, you can have a lot of processes and systems and tools. But I still think if you have a lot of tools, but you don't have a process at the bottom, it will never work, right? So you need to do those basic things right first, and then put systems on top, because I still think it's actually the planning, the conversation, having those dialogues. That's the most important part, because if they don't take place, you will not be able to integrate, right? But I think also many are speaking about putting performance development and learning and the development together as one team, because they are so closely correlated to each other. And also the talent and succession planning. We're not there yet. We're keeping them separate. We are collaborating in the HR forum model across all of the legs, actually, of the HR processes to make sure that we move in there.
I was recently at an iVentiv event in Cologne, where the head of learning and skills for a large technology company, 300,000 people, said, if only the company knew what the company knew. Talking about skills and how to really have as much information as possible. So you mentioned there this, the skills-based organization, and is that a journey that you are on at Sandvik?
Yeah, we're exploring it for the moment, and we are in the beginning, trying to make sure that we first understand what do we want to do by having a skills-based organization, what do we want to accomplish and achieve that we don't have today, right? So that's the first part, but we're on that journey. We're exploring it right now. We're closely connecting it to HR tech, of course, and also our HR system, where we have the employee data. So we're not there, but we're trying to explore it, and hopefully we will get there and also connect it to some sort of more individualized learning experience platform for the future.
It's a question that many of your peers in many different industries, in many different organizations are also looking into, whether that's at the exploratory stage of a skills-based organization, whether they're further along on that journey. And I think one of the benefits of a forum such as iVentiv is you can hear from peers what it is that they're doing and why they're doing it, or what they would do differently. So we're really excited to have you involved in the session that's coming up. What are you excited about? What are you excited about to learn from your peers about at that session?
That's one point. I would really like to understand where we are on the employee experience journey. We're also speaking about calling it people experience, moving more towards the people-centric part on the employee life cycle. So skills is definitely one. AI will, of course, be another topic. How far are you on that road? We're also there, trying to understand what personas need what type of education when it comes to AI, how can we upskill, reskill, what do we need to do also with our executive stream when it comes to this and the full leadership pool also, so everyone has a basic understanding. So I'm just looking forward to see where people are on this journey actually, and it's always nice to share because usually you end up in understanding that no one maybe have the perfect solution. If someone has, they're also willing to share, so let's see.
One thing I always say about iVentiv sessions is I can't guarantee that someone has the answer, but I can guarantee they have the same questions. And what's important is about getting people, peers aligned with all those similar questions in a room and giving you the time and space to work towards those answers together. Where do you see the benefit of connecting in a peer forum such as iVentiv?
I think it's always good to discuss, and I think it's always good. You get inspiration, you get new thoughts, you get a new network, you have new people to reach out to, and you always come out with new friends, new colleagues, new ways of working. Thinking in another way or perspective. So I think and doing that face to face, it gives you so much more, both when it comes to inspiration and energy, but also moving a bit closer, the talk in between sessions, like an example that also appears there that you don't have when you meet people online. So but I think it's good actually, and I think everyone is really, I think, cross industry willing to help out if we can. So I think like L&D is actually more and more open. It's like a more open community than other communities to share best practices.
And given the different roles that you've had, have you felt there's been a shift in the L&D community recently?
I think everyone is moving towards having it more optimized, right? You really want to make sure that everyone gets the same and fair opportunity for education and training. I think that has shifted a bit actually. All of these extensive leadership portfolios of leadership programs, they still exist, but I think they're much more tailored now also to make sure that everyone can reach out, like on LinkedIn Learning, that you actually can find a lot, on the web already today. So it's also a lot about curiosity in your own mindset if you want to learn. And I think having a curious mind, and we speak about lifetime or lifelong learning, but also speaking about learning that lasts. So if you actually combine experience and learning together, it lasts longer if you experience something, doing something, as well as you're actually reading into something. So I think it has changed a lot because we have so much content today. So it's almost hard to understand where to find it. But yeah, it has changed.
I really like that idea of learning that lasts. It's not just about the immediate moment, but it is that how do you move forward with it? You'll see our iVentiv tagline is learn, connect, develop. And one thing we always say at our sessions or among our community is that develop piece is so important. It's not just about spending the time now. It's what actions are you going to take, even if it is just a new forum of people to connect with, but that development piece, even as learning leaders yourselves, making sure that you kind of practice what you preach and taking that forward.
And I also think showing that learning is important, right? Because if you're not a role model, showing yourself that you're actually learning, you're training yourself, you have a curious mindset, you want to develop, and you give space and time for people in your team to learn, then it's going to be hard, right? Because there's always a lot of other priorities. I think we also need to tell the importance of learning and continuously developing.
Yeah, a curious mindset is absolutely paramount, I think, for these sessions and for anybody in the workforce today when there's so much changes happening and changes are constant. So it's always about making sure you are malleable and open to that change. Perhaps as a personal question, is there any tools or experiences that have been, that have really shaped you and your own curious mindset, or advice that you might give to someone who really wants to open that for themselves?
I think for my personal path, combine them with my work life, I've always done some things on the side. I've trained myself also on the side. I actually studied to become a sommelier some years ago. And that's a lot of work and a lot of hard training. But I think it's good that you can inspire yourself also doing other things outside of work, right? But I also think it's good to read books. I like to read into books. I like to read into methodologies. Sometimes you can't put them into practice, right? But I think whatever you learn, to me, it's continuous learning. And what I've learned is that I learn something every day at Sandvik. Every day I learn something new. So I felt like if I learn one new thing, I reflect on that one during the evening. What did I learn today? I share it also with my team when I can. So I think also peer-to-peer learning, on the job training, learning every day. And it doesn't matter to me so much if it's work-wise within Sandvik, I learn something new about Sandvik. I think as long as you learn new things, you will develop your references and your mindset, right? And that's the growth mindset also we're talking a bit about. Learning to unlearn is another thing that we're working with right now. How to let go, how to make space for new things. So I think it's good to have things on the side also to inspire you and to learn new things outside of work.
I think that's so fun. I'll be sure to sit next to you at dinner. Then you can give the right advice of, or maybe you can tell us what we should pair, how we should pair the wines to dinner. I love that. I love hearing about a person's personal interests as well. And I think exactly to your point, it's about staying curious in all elements and training the brain as a muscle, so that when it comes to the professional environment and the personal environment, you are open to that change and knowing it is a constant, and feeling that you have the tools and the mindset to be prepared, not necessarily to know what the change is, but know that you can make it through and that you can adapt to that. And of course, in an industry such as that Sandvik is in, where health and safety and sustainability is so important and the landscape is changing, I can imagine that embracing that curious mindset and understanding has been pivotal, from employees right the way through to leadership.
Exactly. That's spot on.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. As I say, we're really looking forward to having your insights and the Sandvik perspective as part of the discussions later in the month. And for anyone that is curious, would like to join the conversations, our Learning Futures Copenhagen session is on the 29th and 30th of April 2025 in Copenhagen, Denmark. If you're not able to join us, but you're curious about what Eva is doing and the Sandvik employee experience, do encourage to connect on LinkedIn, and also see if there is another iVentiv session that you might be able to join. We would love to see you there.